Okay, let's practice a little. So if you have, for practice problem number 1, I'm going to give you 4 problems as a matter of fact. So if you finish one, you can move on to the next one. But remember, we're not posting until I say, okay, give me the answer for number 1, etc. What happens when you have a positive times a negative? What kind of sign answer do you get? Do you get a positive or a negative? That's number 1. And you should have your math notebook, if for anything at all, to copy this down so that you can you can solve these problems with the class in real time. So what happens when, for number 2, you have negative 2 times negative 5? What does that give you? For number 3, 3 times negative 3. And last but not least, you can start solving these already because I'm going to keep these up. Negative 4 times positive 5. Okay, give it a shot. I'll give you about a minute and a half or so. Okay, so for number 1, you can post in the comments at this point. I think almost everyone should be done. What happens when you multiply a positive times a negative? What kind of answer do you get? And moderators, let me know what people post. Excellent. Exactly. So you have a negative answer for that. Okay, for number 2, what do you get when you multiply negative 2 times negative 5? Moderators, let me know, please, because otherwise I don't know. Yeah, the 2 possible answers are positive 10, or you can just write 10. Number 3, negative 3 times negative, 3 times negative 3. Excellent. That's only one answer. If you put 9, you're wrong, okay? So it has to be a negative 9. And last but not least, for number 4, that's negative 4 times 5. Excellent. Okay, so you're on top of it. That's what this tells me. Okay, now let's go ahead and ask you a separate set of questions. I leave off example 4. What happens if you have, and I'm going to, okay, so number 5, this is still practice. Give me the answer to this. And just solve it, and when I say please give me the answer, let me know. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge one because I think Khan Academy might offer something like this, even though this is not an integer. It's a decimal problem, or a decimal times an integer. I wonder if you can solve that. I'll give you a minute because the decimal one is a little bit longer than normal integer problems. Okay. Number 5. What's the answer? Go ahead and post. Zero. Okay, so this is a big lesson. Anything times 0 is 0. Even 0 times 0 is 0. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're multiplying 0 by a negative, it's always going to give you 0. Okay, and then now for number 6, and I'll do this one with you, you already know how to multiply decimals. Do that first. 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 3, 13, 14, 15. The decimal moves over one time to the left. You should have gotten 15 or 15.0, and because it's a negative times a negative, it's going to give you a positive. So if you put or think the answer is positive 15 or just 15, you are correct. Okay, so good job on that. Excellent. Okay, you all. So I need to definitely go over, before we go any further, I want to really touch upon absolute value. And here's what I'm going to say about that. See what number I left off on, numbers. Absolute value is super easy. As a matter of fact, I remember the first time I learned about it, it was like my favorite thing for a really long time. And I'll be honest, it's because it was so easy. So pretend you have a number line like this one. Okay. And all absolute value is the distance away from 0. That's actually it. Hold on, okay, so I'll make this number 7. So if I ask you, and this is how you write absolute value, everybody. You write it like this with these lines, up and down, a 5 in the middle, and number 7, what that reads is the absolute value of 5. That's how you read this problem, okay? And so what I'm asking for is how far is 5 away from 0? And using a number line is really helpful, because if you start at 5 and you try to make yourself or make your way home to 0, it's 1 step, 2, 3, 4, 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Now, this brings us to a very interesting point, and that is that absolute value is always positive, period. Okay? Unless something else is happening there. It's always positive. Yes. Go for it. Good question. So these lines, all they mean is absolute value of. The lines are a symbol, Chloe. They're a symbol, everybody, for absolute value. So whenever you see those lines, it tells you immediately absolute value. Okay? The same way that these guys mean parentheses, the other lines mean absolute value. Okay, so that's how you read that. The absolute value of 5 is 5, and it's always positive. So what if I ask you this? Give me the answer to the absolute value of negative 2. And don't answer yet, okay? Just see if you can find it, or solve it, or know it. And then I'm going to ask you for this one. What's the absolute value of 0? I know, that does not mean laugh out loud. You can also, for number 7, give me positive 5 as an answer. Okay, so go ahead and post. What's the answer for number 8? What's the absolute value of negative 2? Yeah. If you wrote or think it's 2 or positive 2, you're correct. Remember, it's not negative. Now, the absolute value of 0 means how far is 0 from 0? And I think that's pretty obvious. 0 is 0 spaces away from 0. 0 is 0. Okay? So that would be like a tricky question. Make sure you don't get that wrong. And again, if you need to put the number line or draw the number line to help you with absolute value, that's fine. But if you want to know Mr. C's trick, and this is my trick when I was in 5th grade too, is I just take whatever numbers inside the absolute value lines and I just make it positive. It's already positive, then I just write the number again. Okay? Okay, so I want to see if you all have any questions so far, and if you do, you can go ahead and let the moderators know, or just say that you have a question. Okay, Chloe, what is it? No, no, Chloe. The answer's you wouldn't get it wrong because this number that I wrote down here, that means positive 4. So no, you don't have to. As a matter of fact, you know me, it's much more efficient if you didn't, and that's good. Okay, so I know that there may be some other questions, and if you do have one, you let the moderators know. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Khan Academy. I gave you 2 assignments on Khan Academy, like exercises to do. And one of them I said that it was a little bit challenging, the way Khan Academy likes to throw in trick questions in there. So I said just give it your best shot. But here's how some of those problems might look. Khan Academy might try and give you a problem that looks like this, for example. Negative x over negative y. Okay? And that looks like and it wants you to tell it whether the answer is going to be positive or negative. And you can't solve this because you don't know what x is or what y is, right? So what I want to say about a problem like this is that this is the same as saying negative x divided by negative y. So you may say, okay, great, Mr. C, but how does that help us? Well, the rules for division are the same as the rules for multiplication. So if you have some random number that's negative and being divided by another negative, it's the same thing as multiply. Therefore, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? So that's one problem that I wanted to talk about. And do recall that even though it's written like a fraction, fractions are also potential division problems. So it can definitely be written like this. Okay? Here, let me give you another problem. You can try solving this example. What's negative a divided by positive b? What kind of sign is the answer going to have? And just go ahead and say it because you don't have to do any solving for this. Or type it down for me. Yeah, it's going to be negative. Good. Yeah, it's going to be negative. Now, I like when Khan Academy challenges you, but I do want to make sure you are prepared. Khan Academy might throw another problem that looks like this your way. Allow me to demonstrate. It'll be something really nutty like negative a times b times like, I don't know, c. So this looks super weird to you. What's happening is that it's being timesed. All a and b and c are all being times together. They're all being multiplied. And Khan Academy might say something like, okay, now pretend that c is actually less than 0, which means that c is negative, right? That means c is negative. Okay, team, tell me this. If a is negative times b, which is positive, times c, which is actually negative, what do you think that's going to give you for an answer? Hint, do 2 at a time and then move on to the next one. Anybody have any answers? Now, I don't know what the moderators are reading. If you wrote or think that it might be, if you think it might be positive, you're right. Great. Allow me to demonstrate to you why this is positive. Now, this is an advanced problem. This is a 7th grade problem, okay? I still think it's fun. So, and don't worry, this will not be on your quiz. This is just for our minds to grow. Now, you start with the first two. A negative times a positive is a negative. And then you have a negative here, right? So what's a negative times a negative? Well, positive. So if you do it a step at a time, you see how you arrive at your answer really quick. Okay, I want to go ahead and say that if you understand absolute value and value, and if you understand how to, the rules of like, a positive times a negative equals a negative, things like that, then you're good to go. And I will go ahead and dismiss you. If you have any questions, stay back. And also, Dean, Skolton, if you're still on the call, please stay back as well, please. All right. As for everybody else, I'll see you all later. Happy Monday, everybody. See you later.